very good evening to you and welcome to Power Brief. This being the first edition ever in the year 2021. We hope you had a wonderful Christmas celebration, and we are here one more time to look into matters policy, matters governance, and matters economy with a third eye, looking into the problems that are facing Kenyans and what are probable solutions. Our guest tonight, we have Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, who is the MP for Ndaragwa constituency. Honorable Jeremiah Kioni is not only the MP for Ndaragwa constituency, but he's also the chairman of the Constitutional Implementation and Oversight Committee. We also have the Iron Lady, that is Anita Nkirote. Anita Nkirote is the Deputy Organizing Secretary of the Third Way Alliance Party. Edgar Kosgei, who is a policy and a political analyst, is also with us in studio. And together they're going to take us through this conversation as we look into the year 2021 on matters corruption, on matters economy, on matters cohesion and integration, especially at this time when the country is facing the debate, that is the referendum. How are Kenyans going to fare on? And just a few days ago, we saw the head of state admitting that the country is losing 2 billion Kenya shillings per day through corruption. Does it mean that everything cannot be saved as at this time, or is there any other solution? Remember, this conversation is also live on our Facebook page, KAK TV Kenya. Our YouTube channel is KAK TV Kenya. You can also text us, send us an SMS on our SMS number, that is 22167. Keep it on KAK TV as we do it in a way that is not done elsewhere, just for you.
Is silent about what is happening in this country. Mr. President, thank you for the confession that we are all thieves minus opportunities. But what does that tell you? Mr. President, you have the EACC, you have the DPP, you have the NIS, you have every government machinery at your disposal. Either the government knows who steals the Kenyan money, or the government is part of the stealing. What are you telling Kenyans when you confess such? That you are defeated? Who will save then this country if the president cannot save us? We have become a nation of thieves. Up to now,
saa hizi county governments wanatudai shilingi bilioni 100, na hiyo ni 15%. Kama imeshindikana kulipa 15% kwa counties, hii 35% mnasema wananchi wanataka kujua itatoka wapi, kwa sababu hatutaki uongo, tunataka ukweli. Waambie wale wanachukua utapeli eti mambo ya hasla ati ni kupigana na matajiri. Mimi nataka niwaambie mambo ya hasla ni kupigana na ukabila pamoja na umaskini. Hiyo ndio adui ya mahasla.
Many thanks one more time for finding time to tune into Power Brief on KAK TV. And as I told you earlier, the lady and the gentleman, well versed with matters of politics, law, economy, and governance, are here with us to help us go through this discussion. Mheshimiwa Anita and Mr. Edgar Kosgei, karibuni sana on Power Brief tonight. It's been a while, and just maybe a few seconds for Mheshimiwa maybe to say something, Anita and also Mr. Edgar Kosgei, before we get into tonight's topic. All of you look so much energetic. Since 2021 is good on you, and good on you. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Just to say good evening to the viewers, and we look forward to having a useful conversation. There are times you get into some interviews and they degenerate to name calling and such, and I'm certain with the distinguished panel that you have, we should be able to delve into issues and perhaps suggest what we think. Nobody has solution to these issues we have ideas. And every time I am in these interviews, I believe that I live better because I learned something.
Exactly.
And I'm even more delighted that my co-panelists, if I'm not wrong, are looking younger than I, and they're likely to be younger. I don't know, Kosike, looking at the but they are likely to. I will learn more. There is a lot to learn from the young people.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for this invite.
Karibu sana Mheshimiwa. The Iron Lady, I don't know whether still the iron or you've turned into something else. It's your time to say something briefly.
Thank you. I believe it's the new year. It's time for Kenyans to sit back and think about what we want strategically for this country. And currently the conversation is on 2022. So as we wait to see that the current topics, public debt, hustler versus dynasty mentality, I hope the viewer is well aware. And I believe now there is a much civic education going around. There is access to media, social media, and what have we. I believe the voter is following keenly and will make the best decision. So for me, it's to urge the voter to be more informed and to make better decisions as we go forward to 2022. And also let us remember that the current mean age of the Kenyan voter is 19 years, meaning the guy that will vote in the president, as you go down, president, governor, senator, member of parliament, MCA is a first-time voter. So I urge all of them to think critically and to make the decisions that are right for this country. Thank you.
Mr. Kosgei.
She has made a conclusion. I think we should end the show. Yeah, I'm happy to be here after how many months? From July, when I relocated a bit for work, but I'm happy to be back. And I'll take the side of Mheshimiwa. There's always everything to learn. Everything to learn everywhere. And I also hope to listen and to learn, even as we tackle a few issues here and there. And the purpose for such a show is to help the country. Not everyone can be here. Not everyone can be given an opportunity with the cameras like this. So we pray with a lot of humility that whatever opportunity we have, then we can be able to change country. Yes.
Many thanks. Now, just as we began, we saw the emotions from Provost Wainaina. That is after the head of state, Mheshimiwa, whom actually you serve with him. And just let's hear again one more time what Provost Wainaina was saying and how much he was angered with the sentiments from the head of state.
Currently, the church is silent about what is happening in this country. Mr. President, thank you for the confession that we are all thieves minus opportunities. But what does that tell you? Mr. President, you have the EACC, you have the DPP, you have the NIS, you have every government machinery at your disposal. Either the government knows who steals the Kenyan money, or the government is part of the stealing. What are you telling Kenyans when you confess such? That you are defeated? Who will save then this country if the president cannot save us? We have become a nation of thieves.
Gentlemen and lady, that is Provost Wainaina talking of we have become a nation of thieves, and the confession from the head of state shows that he's unable, something is wrong. Let's try to look into what Provost Wainaina was saying, and if indeed Mheshimiwa tumeinua mikono or there is a solution, because walking in the streets, going all over, everyone is talking like kimeumana na God for us all, everyone for himself. We begin from someone important here from the legislature to tell us kama kimeumana ama kuna matumaini.
I wish we could have heard what the president exactly said, but I think the topic is on corruption. Because these days it's always good to hear it yourself so that you are able to tell what was it that the president was saying. I think I heard from the purpose, like he was saying, the president says, we are all thieves minus opportunities. I don't think he said we are a nation of thieves. Maybe there was another portion of them. But I believe that I can say the following. In 2010, one of the very difficult things that we had at when you were doing the constitution was the issue of corruption in the country. And it took many of us, we were 27 of us at Naivasha, and it took many of us quite some while to accept to include the word, forget about what the word was saying, but to just allow the word corruption in our constitution. Because the argument from those known constitutional lawyers like perhaps the late Mutura Kilonzo, a person I really respected, and he really contributed a lot to where we are as a country in the positive, was there to inform us that this will be the first constitution in the world that carries a negative word like corruption. And the argument was that, but that is the reality. Let us, the generations to come, know that we actually knew where we were and we were working ourselves out of it. So one of the things that we did as a country is to carry the anti-corruption authority in the constitution, bring in the issues of chapter 6 in the constitution. And so in realization and in agreeing that this is a problem, in fact using the catchphrase is a cancer, that we need to deal with it as a country, and it is not one generation, it is something that is becoming intergenerational. So I would want to say this because certainly I was there then, I am there today. We have seen it. We are not where we were. We now know that that time it was very, very difficult to even deal with corruption. Even now we still have corruption at very heavy levels, but I can say without any doubt in my mind that where we were is not where we are. The fight on corruption is at a different gear. Of course the stealing may have gone a notch higher because then we did not have the devolved units. Now we have the devolved units, so the points of stealing have also increased. We need to give the Anti-Corruption Authority more resources. We need to get them to become a bigger unit. We need to give the office of the DPP. One of the things that is in the BBI is strengthening the office of the DPP and recognizing it as a constitutional office so that his tenure is not threatened. And so there is realization. And I can tell you that serving now and then is different. You can almost tell that if resources are lost around where you are, before you leave office, a person from the Anti-Corruption Authority will have knocked your door. Then we were dealing with theft that took place a minimum of 5 years ago. Today you can be able to deal with the stealing that is happening this financial year. So we've come a long way. We are not where we want to go. And I think the idea is to encourage those who are already there. And the last person who can be blamed for not fighting corruption will be Uhuru Kenyatta. He is fought it than any other of the previous presidents. I can tell you that because I was there with Kibaki. I saw it to the Moi. And I want to rest my case there and say we still have work to do. But we need to encourage one another. It's tough. It's becoming difficult to talk to another person in a positive way. But we have to give ourselves the courage and become strong and say it as it is. And I believe it is time to say that.
Thank you. Anita, from your end, this thing is a heated debate all over. And Mheshimiwa has talked of the president has tried. At some point, the head of state talked of munataka nifanyeje because I've done all these that I've done. But you see, there are those ones who says that samaki huanzia kuoza kichwani. They still feel that there is something the president hasn't been doing, just from what Provost Wainaina has talked of. That does it mean you are defeated because the NIS is with you, the other machineries of the government are with you? Is it that you've just failed to press the right button, or what is happening from your end? Do you think the president is doing his best, or someone somewhere is more powerful than him?
I think the statement by Protas comes from, if you remember, the president had done an interview through vernacular stations whereby he acknowledged that when he was asked, is there money for BBI? And he said if 2 billion is being lost every day in this country in the government through corruption, then there is money for BBI. And from where I look at it and from where I sit, I tend to believe that this president, Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, has been empowered constitutionally to fight corruption. When I look at his predecessors, maybe perhaps the constitution was not clear, but the 2010 constitution is very clear about the certain offices that he's introduced, certain chapters that have been introduced that will enable the president to fight corruption. And from where I sit, because mostly corruption comes from public officials, whether elected or appointed, that bring issues to the table. And I believe when you look at certain institutions like the EACC, the DPP, for example, even a critical look at just chapter 6, and when you say let us look at the personality and the individual that is involved in running certain offices, you would see that there is a problem when we have, for example, bluntly, Nairobi County, when you have certain personas that come into play, when the chapter 6 of the constitution is very clear. From where I look at it, I believe that the president is empowered constitutionally, but when it comes to the nitty-gritties and actualizing what we have, then there comes our problem. Because chapter 6 tells us specifically about the type of leaders we have. We are looking at certificate of good conduct. You'd ask, what does it constitute to have a good conduct, and why the DCI, for example, though I'm mentioning the authorities mentioned by Protas, he mentions DCI, he mentions NIS. Why would quote unquote the government give certain individuals mandate to run when clearly they are in violation of that? So for me, when I look at it, I would say that it's not about that. I would say specifically, it's the Constitution 2010 is on good track and it mentioned, but when it comes to implementation, we are really not giving the Constitution what it deserves. We are not giving it the airplay that it deserves.
Constitution is a document. We'll be coming back to find out who is this who is not trying to implement this document.
Yes.
Daktari, from the other end, looking into this matter.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa has admitted that from his experience having worked in the past regimes,
yes,
he talks of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta,
yes,
has given his best.
Yes.
But still you hear the cries that corruption has gone beyond boiling point. So what is not happening, or who is not doing what is supposed to be done from your end?
Thank you very much again. I want to say that Mheshimiwa is a very conservative person. Mheshimiwa would not attack directly, and he's been very careful with his wordings with the president. And I think for my side, I will say the truth, and I will put the truth out there. The president said that 2 billion is being lost daily when he was explaining about the BBI. But if you look at the loss of the 2 billion daily, per hour 83 million is lost. So for the budget that has been proposed, it's close to 3.02 trillion, right? Then if you lose 2 billion daily, then you will lose close to 25% of our budget. A sitting president concluding that money is being lost in the country is a very dangerous trend that we are going. And my assumption is this. When you elect a president, you give him the power of the sword to lead the country in a certain direction. Have you ever been called to advise the president on what to do, on how the country should go? But even the president has the prerogative to reject your advice. If Mheshimiwa here advises the president can take the advice or can reject the advice. So the president leads this country because we gave him a mandate to. If money is stolen in this country, then what can you do as a person? Nothing. Parliamentarians can do something. The National Assembly and the National Assembly and the Senate can do something. The courts can do something, of course, in conjunction with the people. But when those institutions can't do anything, what are you supposed to do? Let me tell you right now that I think it is time to correct whatever is happening. And the person at the helm is the president. And not to just mince words, I think we should change the leadership.
Thank you. Now, there is something here. I'm glad we have a lawyer and someone who is concerned with oversighting and also ensuring that the Constitution is being implemented in the right way. At some point, when you look at the principle of legality in the Constitution and the separation of powers, and you realize even during that time when Chief Justice Dr. Maraga was there, they had a lot of issues with the head of state.
Yes.
Where the head of state was talking of a thief has been presented before a court of law, but the court goes ahead to give this person bail while there's some sufficient evidence that this person has looted a lot of money, and that's what I think the president was referring to. Mnataka nifanye nini? So we want to bring this question again to the panelists tonight. Is it time the president is given emergency powers to step into such a things whenever there is something like in some of those advanced they call it dictatorships, where rais ako na hiyo mamlaka ya kusema ya kwamba Anita Nkirote should go through this. Mheshimiwa, is it time we look into the Constitution and avoid the separation of powers? Because a question is coming here, Mheshimiwa, every now and then, where people talk of there can only be one head at a time. Si ati kichwa inasema hii, mkono inasema hii, there should be one person to offer direction, one drive at a time. What is your take on that?
One of the other thing, and I think I continue with the same point, and I've really, it helps me, this debate helps me to say the following, the contributions from my colleagues here. That one of the major things that pushed us into the Second Liberation War, where we said we have the 1963 Constitution signed by the Queen, we need another Constitution signed by our own that addresses our own, was one of the issues was the rule, that one man rule. And the one man would wake up and say, arrest him. I saw him steering a car yesterday. And you are in. You run to court before you are saying, and you say, and I let me see whether there is any judge who is going to give him bail. So, and perhaps all you did was disagree politically, and for that reason you're put in. And he uses corruption as a political weapon. There is no country that will be able to develop or move or even stabilize that allows corruption to be used as a political weapon. It was done during the Kanu regime. We moved away from it, and people were jailed, were detained. We even lost Akina Matiba, died because of trying to say that the president should not have this power. So that's a journey we have to. We've been there, as they say. We've been there, done that, and bought a T-shirt. I wouldn't be the last person to advocate for that kind of as to a scenario. The 2010 Constitution. This is the other bit, and I think this is where the provost also needs to hear this. Our 2010 Constitution has a different philosophy, that instead of relying on individuals, rely on institutions. Instead of relying on individuals, rely on institutions. Individuals will come with their own prejudices, they will come with their own weaknesses, they will come with their own political loyalty, and they may not be able to do what you want as a country. For that reason, we said, let's stay out of the individuals, the weaknesses of the individuals. For two reasons. We saw the Constitution under Kenyatta, the same Constitution. We saw it under Moi, and we saw it under Kibaki. And all the three of them produced different results. Why? Because we were relying on the personalities. So we shifted that and relied more on the institutions. If we are not fighting corruption today, and we are having a problem, the problem is not President Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, trying to blame the president is because he is there and you need to say something. When you talk about the Constitution, if we want to go to court and say that this country has failed to fight corruption, the offices that will be taken to court is the one for EACC, headed by Wabukara, the one for the DPP, headed by Haji, and you'll be going to the DCI. And I can tell you that is where you can take a constitutional petition to court. The courts will never fight the president, and not this one, including the one you desire for 2022, because it's just a desire. including the one you desire for 2022 or 2027, he will never be taken to court. You can make political noise like we make. We can tell him we want to see you doing something. By the way, we are keeping these offices insulated from even directions from the president. In the BBI that we are now having, we are trying to give cover to DPP so that he is able to arrest you even if you are looking for a presidential position. And he has nothing to lose. It is you losing. You can make all the political noise you want, but we have isolated him from the political, but that is one. Two, the other thing that is also important here is that we need to give them the resources that they need. And I can tell you that we have not been able to perhaps go to where they want, but they are still moving there. But what we have done as politicians is to complain that every time we have caught you stealing, you say you are arresting me not because I'm stealing, but because I believe in this political persuasion and not this one. So it is that political talk that is actually stalling the fight
Many
for
thanks,
corruption.
Mheshimiwa. We go for a quick commercial break. As we come back, we shall be also getting to hear from Anita and Mr. Edgar Kosgei that indeed, are we done? Are there solutions to these issues of the Constitution? Is it to hang or to shoot them that have been caught and there is evidence that they have stolen from public coffers? And also, we'll also be looking into the political intolerance in the country and also the public debt that is causing headache to a number of stakeholders in Kenya. Remember, this conversation is also live on our Facebook page, CAC TV Kenya. YouTube channel is CAC TV Kenya, and our SMS number is 22167. Keep it on Power Brief on CAC TV.
Family is God's greatest masterpiece.
And I do not know why the Bible says that a woman will be divorced for immorality, but it is silent on whether the man should be divorced for immorality.
You don't choose your family, they are a gift to you. But what are the challenges facing our families today?
This child can be sexually molested within marriage.
So anytime he comes home at 2 a.m., just go to your knees. Now, you lose your husband, you're not going to gain him.
Many of them have gotten messed up because you want to meet your needs.
Here on Transforming Families, we delve into matters that are difficult.
What do children think when they see that mom has 2 other lovers?
Viewed as hard and confusing in marriages and families.
There's a time you used to be in, huyo ni bibi ya DC. And people will not touch bibi ya DC. Huyo ni bibi ya chief. Huyo ni mke wa mwalimu.
Don't miss Transforming Families, Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on CAC TV.
If we were to express our faith in the workplace, even in our offices, I don't think we'd be dealing with the issues that our country is dealing right now.
In every situation, there's a silver lining.
If I'm a Christian professional, will I be engaged in corruption or in tribalism or some of these other national vices we have in the workplace?
How do we get back to the original design as God intended it to be?
We inspire.
The cross unites, these other traditions divide.
The God of hope fills us with joy and peace so that we overflow with hope.
Encourage resilience.
When you see like, what? It's like when an accident is coming to happen and you're seeing yourself dead. You get to a point where you say, no, but God is there. And you know, He puts a stop.
And instill hope that anchors the soul.
We know that God intends that we have life and have it in abundance.
Don't miss Rays of Hope, Mondays at 8 p.m. only on CAC TV.
welcome back, and many thanks for choosing Power Brief on CAC TV. And just to read some of your comments here, we have Anne Barton Singer all the way from Naramoru. Many thanks, Anne. And then we have Geoffrey Kimathi Mugambi Winnie. He says he's watching from Laikipia. We also have Solomon To watching from Roysambu, Nairobi County. And we also have J. Derek Setiang is watching from Gilgil Paramilitary College. Many thanks. Before we went for a break, Mheshimiwa had given his part of the idea on matters regarding corruption. And also now, Anita and Edgar, you're not given yours. What do you think?
But
Just
you
in
didn't
summary.
allow me to finish as you go to Anita and give them one example.
In summary.
So that you see where the president comes in.
Yes.
The work of the president is, if, for example, you have a parastatal and the executive Ferrer there is mismanaging, he has the work of sacking because he can also fire and hire. And I can give you an example of one corporation. Let me not give the details, and let me not mention. But where changes were done in the month of June 2018, I believe, and we had already provided for some money for that corporation because we already knew that it was going to be in the brackets. End of that year, the corporation turned 20B as a profit. 6 months later, another 20B. 1 year, the corporation turned 40 billion. Money that was being stolen by the management team that was in office then. So those are the things I believe the president should be able to continue doing, but getting the process from that point on, then of course even investigating and reporting on those thefts, but that responsibility the president has. Yes.
Thank you, Anita. In summary, what do we do?
When you mentioned about more powers to the presidency as regards to corruption, it reminded me of the days Wangari Maathai would go to the streets, a legendary icon I'd love to quote, whereby if the president said jump, you would say how high. And there are people who defied these rules and way of doing things. So for me, I say no, the presidency, the powers are good as is because there is institutionalization. We need to move away from whereby we give powers to personality and we give powers to institutions to do what they are supposed to do as per mandated by the Constitution. And for me, as I look at it, and in specific to regard to what you said, yes, the president said these are corruption cases. The DCI and the Office of ODPP have brought cases forth, and when it comes, the judiciary says there's a lack of enough evidence. For me, I can never underestimate the power of the rule of law. As much as we want to try people for corruptions, then we still cannot overspeed and do things haphazardly. We have a methodology where we call substance over form. The procedure under which you do things matter more than the conclusion you come to. So we really do need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that people were culpable. So for me, the way I look at it, I say, let's look at corruption from a point of whereby we prevent things before they happen rather than when they happen. For example, a clear example is the management of Nairobi County, the corruption of it or lack of it. When you look at the management of Nairobi, if we simply followed the Constitution and we said, or Kiambu County, or all these counties we are talking about, when you look at the Office of the Auditor General's report, if we follow the structure, which we say, what's the qualification for a governor? We must look at Chapter 6 documents, which I've kept on talking about again and again and again. Let's look at it and say, what are the qualifications for you to be here? So that we, I don't know if the word is preempt, so that we preempt before we have the right person, before we have the problems we had. We knew we had this problem. When Jubilee was nominating candidates for governor's position, they knew they had a problem. I know PS Kibisho tried for a fact to deny a couple of documents from being released, but due to public pressure, they were released and the candidate passed. But look at what we have years to come. If we were to have simply followed the Constitution and followed the rule of law, then we would not be where we are today. Where we are today, where Anne Kananu is saying what she's saying, where Polycarp Igathe has come. Like Nairobi is a big ball of symbolic.
Thank you. Dr. Edgar seems to have prepared on that matter and he seems to be having the solution for this devil of corruption.
He has a prescription now.
Yes. with those bad handwritings. Now, I want to talk about the independent institutions, as Mheshimiwa has said. Institutions are not independent until they are independent enough to run themselves. When we talk about the courts, let us look at the courts. The courts are not that independent when they still depend on Akina Mheshimiwa to allocate finances. When the president says, let's slash the money, then the courts cry. So if we correct a situation whereby we have the constitution forces us to allocate some money to the courts, then the courts can be truly independent. They say, whoever pays your bills runs you. So I wanted to maybe give my thought into that part. Another one is this. We have seen a lot of corruption cases happening even in the government itself. We have seen Irungu Kangata being given a file. His file is being taken to the EACC because he is not agreeing with the president himself.
You see, that sounds like something I said earlier.
There is corruption everywhere, and it is orchestrated by the big boys. Another one is, look at the voting in the county government of Nairobi. Some people are being voted for in absentia. Yeah, you are away and your vote has been carried out. Look at how the president has been leading the country with a tough hand. Look at the Senate, how he toppled the leadership of the Senate just in a snap of a finger like that. But which was not procedural, and people went to court for it. And I can tell you for a fact, even if we look forward to come up with independent institutions and whatever, we need to change our mannerism. And I would advise the president, if he has a goodwill for the country, I would advise him. But you know, politics is not all about to check a hapa na pale. No, he has to run the country in the way he needs to run the country. And he can't let his agenda be derailed. So he has to do what he can do. But I'm requesting that things be done in the right way. That when you really need numbers in parliament, have good numbers. Let us see the numbers. If you want good numbers in the Senate, don't bring in Kanu or the independent candidates. You draft you draft.
No, I think it is fine.
An agreement.
That
is non-existent. Yeah.
You should mention the one they took away from us called UDF.
Yes. So I'm encouraging us to be straightforward. But in politics, there's nothing like being straightforwardness. But I'm encouraging country that when we are fighting corruption, I need the president to lead with what is right, you know. And then I don't want to talk about BBI because I know you will come into it. The lies that we are being told in our country are no good. When you want to pass a certain bill belonging to dealing with certain problem in the country, do not bring other good bills and then you shield the other bill inside and then you want us to pass it.
Thank you,
to correct the situation in the country.
So an argument that is coming from all of us here is that as a country we need to relook our mannerisms and develop something called Ubuntu. Now we get into something here.
But before you get, let me throw a code thing to everybody who has a file. When you talk about independence of institutions, it means that even if DPP Haji was to go home and Anita is in that office, she will find the files there. If Haji had a reason not to look at the file, Anita will look at the file. So if you have a file with the DCI, if you have a file with the DPP, if you have a file with the EACC, you are better advised from this forum today to deal with it. It's just a matter of time. Those institutions are independent enough to keep the files ready for the incoming individuals if the ones in office are unable to deal with them. For this reason, when we were giving ourselves the 2010 constitution, one of the things that people have not understood, we also repealed the limitations of Actions Act. I think that's what we used to call it. This means before 2010, if you had committed a crime and you were able to play around and you remained for 6 years without being charged, it would die. Today, you die before the crime. You can actually be taken to court when you're in the grave. They call it posthumously. That is the scenario we are in as a country. So if you have stolen, you can only continue playing around with the political games and hoping that you get some cover. But one time, your file will be there. And of course, what we are also saying in the BBI, which I believe has issues people would want to talk about, is that we are now also saying that we need a maximum of 2 years within which to start a case and finish.
So it should not go beyond 2 years. We are now coming there. There is something coming up in this country, especially since a handshake, and also recently now the BBI, now that it has gone to the county assemblies, the intolerance between these two camps, that one of the Deputy President William Ruto and the camp of Honorable Raila Odinga. Raila accuses Ruto, Ruto accuses Raila. But maybe Anita somewhere says that these people are not accusing each other. There's a constant factor that they're trying to attack. Let's listen to this video that Ruto was speaking today in Bama, and whatever he had, it seems to be, he had something to tell the country.
Saa hizi county governments wanatudai shilingi bilioni 100 na hiyo ni 15%. Kama imeshindikana kulipa 15% kwa counties, hii 35% mnasema wananchi wanataka kujua itatoka wapi. Kwa sababu hatutaki uongo, tunataka ukweli. Waambie wale wanachukua utapeli, eti mama, saa hizi county governments wanatudai shilingi bilioni 100 na hiyo ni 15%. Kama imeshindikana kulipa 15% kwa counties, hii 35% mnasema wananchi wanataka kujua itatoka wapi. Kwa sababu hatutaki uongo, tunataka ukweli. Waambie wale wanachukua utapeli, eti mambo ya hasla ati ni kupigana na matajiri. Mimi nataka niwaambie, mambo ya hasla ni kupigana na ukabila pamoja na umaskini. Hiyo ndio adui.
That is Deputy President William Ruto. Yesterday we saw what happened in Githurai, the stoning and all those things that happened. Today we also saw some in Bama, though it wasn't aired in the mainstream media. And seems there is something growing, the intolerance in politics. So Mheshimiwa, beginning from you as a chairman of Constitutional Implementation Committee, it's being spoken of building bridges initiative. But seems, sorry, the bridges is being burnt or being broken more. These not indicators that actually the bridge is being broken and burnt down at the same time?
I have run something from you that it was not aired in the mainstream media. That is a very rude statement. I don't know whether it came from you or it just it came out without your knowing. But even before we address that issue, look at what is happening in the US. And the US, the problems that are there now, and we are going to see, I was there during the voting process, they are going to be deeper because of the media. The media belongs to one side of the political divide in the US. That is a disaster in that country. How they are going to come out of it, I don't know. Because if you have no, you see, why we also fought for this constitution. I want to tell you why I'm happy in this constitution. Before this, Koski, before this constitution, you will not be seated here. 2010, 1999, you will sit here, outside here will be police officers waiting for you with the pingus. Ati ulisema nini wewe? Sahi. And from there you can disappear for a couple of months. So we have gotten ourselves into a space that is admirable. We are able to nurture new leadership through this kind of discussion. This is not idle. I know we have people who are going to be in places. So this is not an idle sitting that we have. And so if the mainstream media chose to report yesterday at Githurai and they did not report today, if it is not for purposes of ensuring that this culture is not given a platform, if it is because you want to report this and not the other, that's already a mistake and it needs to be addressed from the media. But I think also we have the issue of, we have a whole chapter or quite a number of articles of cohesion and integration. I think one of the things that needs to be said here is that it will be shameful for us as a country if we can start the culture, we can go back to the issue of trying to stop others from saying what they want to say by either heckling or stoning. Those are very primitive and civilized practices. They need to be stopped. Let me also say this. There is no stoning. There is no heckling. Heckling can happen. But let me tell you, there is no stoning. I have been in this country doing politics. There is no stoning that will happen to you anywhere in this country if there is no other politician behind the stoning. There is no Kenyan who will pick a stone and say, mjinga huyu umetoka wapi? Kenyans are mature enough to say, I don't want to listen to this from this particular politician. And they will continue. Kama alikuwa anauza boga, ataendelea kuuza boga pale, hataki kukusikia. Anaweza kutumia maneno. And you know, you can do whatever you want to say and say what you want to say as long as you're not hurting the other. But of course, insulting is not part of it. So I want to say the issue is that we are going back to some very dark times. And the leaders of the camps must call their troops to order. Don't bring... By the way, I was in Githurai yesterday, just in case you did not know. I went there. I got there just when the whole thing was coming to an end. If I had an opportunity, perhaps I would have gone to Bama also. And I can tell you that you could tell that these were individuals brought and paid to do that. And they got frustrated because this visit by Raila was coming to an end before they did what they have been paid to do. I am happy that we didn't have casualties. In there were no casualties. I had to drive off because when you see stones in the air, you only be a fool to wait. They are not birds. They will land on you with some force. So I also took cover and we left. But let me give the better report. Having been there, even the guys who are throwing stones, anger was not in the air. That was a joy for me. Anger was not in the air. And I could tell we are headed to a situation where we are going to disagree on ideas and not disagree on how hard, how heavy the stone you are carrying is. And I think it's something that tolerance must be preached. And those people, and I don't want to single out because there are politicians who came out to say that they had even said you can't come here. One is that every politician should be allowed to any corner of this country. And let me say this now as a Kikuyu. I don't say that this often because you keep saying I'm conservative. Kikuyus, make sure you don't come out like people who are uncivilized. Let every person who wants to look for vote come to your doorsteps.
But that's
listen to them. Listen to them. Set them away because they have no good ideas. But do not be used to stone anybody. That is not us.
Let's hear from Anita and then Kosgei. This political intolerance. Do you agree with Mheshimiwa that some politicians are beating the war drums in preparation for 2022 and post-2022, and probably they're planning to ban the country?
So I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news, but a messenger is a messenger and a message must come across. And for me, the pain I have, together with my friend, I'm sure you know her, Ruth Ambogo, is that the hustler versus dynasty mentality is a serious affair that's going to cost this country. And for me, there's no better way to look at it other than going back to the history. And when you look at the history of this country, when you look at 1992, 1997, 2003, 2007, you can tell whereby a recipe for disaster is going to occur. and recipe for disaster usually occurs when we are turning over a new presidency. For example, a president has served for 10 years and now we need to have the new guy in town. Of course, the new guy in town may not necessarily be the new guy in town, might be a wolves in sheep's clothing, but the point is it's a change of name from point A to point B. And where I come is there must be a narrative that must go around town that will incite the people and make people feel a particular type of way. So for me, I think it's a very dangerous narrative that is going around, and I equate it to hustler versus dynasty mentality, whereby we cannot have this leader, not because of as Mheshimiwa has mentioned, it's not because of the ideology you hold, but because of you are a person of where, sorry for the direct where do you belong, where do you come from, not what ideology you hold dear. And as Third Way Alliance, I'm here courtesy of Deputy Organizing Secretary Third Way Alliance. We've done this, we've seen these things before. We've gone to the counties as you're talking about whereby IEBC has verified signatures, blah, 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 and the BBI is now in counties, etc., etc. We've done this whole log, and we can tell you who called who and said in this county assembly, you can go and present, and who paid who, so that we did not move to the step forward. I remember among the initiators of, there was Okoa Kenya, before now we came with the Punguza Mizigo initiative. And we know how the dance goes. Whereas we might have had best ideas, I believe, that resonated with every Kenyan, quote unquote, even the hustler, things changed and we changed gear. Some of our proposals were adopted into the BBI, which we have no issues with. But we are saying bringing the country to a hustler versus dynasty mentality is a recipe for disaster. It's us versus them. It's what is ailing the US currently.
Thank you, Anita. Now, on that
and
part,
by the way, these are dynasties.
I can see.
Oh yes.
Which one?
Who is the dynasty? Can I tell them?
Tell us.
Just a few minutes ago, I was with a young man from Laikipia called Wamiano. Very young your age. His car, and he had it today, without windows. His car, Litten dynasty. You are dynasty.
Now, Mr. Kosgei,
yes,
you seem to be having something that Anita has brought up, that kuna watu wanaanza hii class war, huyu ni dynasty, huyu ni hustler. But again, at the same time, there are those ones who came up to say that those ones who are claiming that the so-called hustlers are attacking the dynasties, that again it has been fueled by the same politicians whom Mheshimiwa has just spoken. Who is this who is telling the truth, and who is this who is not saying the truth? There is a counteractive, others are talking, yes, hustlers are killing us, such a things.
You know, first, before I go there, I just want to comment on what Mheshimiwa said about the media. About the media that was used in the US. We know where they stood. We know, and we know how the elections went. Now, in our country here, who's the owner of a certain media station? We are not visitors here, and we know usually what usually happens. Who owns those other media stations? And sometimes the narrative that they want is being run on those media stations. And Mheshimiwa was actually surprised that there is a TV station that covered things yesterday in Githurai and did not cover things that the deputy president was presenting today. It is the reality that the media was whipped into a certain direction.
Which media?
You can't mention it.
Don't mention it, but
you can't mention it.
When you talk of media,
yes,
also including
I can assure you that the media was whipped. And we are not visitors here. There's a station that everyone was sacked for supporting a certain political divide. No wonder no one goes
Jana usiku.
Sorry?
Cornelius, I think this guy should give his sentiments to the DCI.
Don't call the DCI.
You have intel.
Let me tell you this. We are no visitors in this country. Sometimes, yeah, they are actually.
But
yes. Let me just go on. Let me just go on. Anita, it's my whatever, my time. political intolerance and violence is not something that we should be talking about. What we should be talking about is, who is this youth who is convinced, who is being told to throw stones, the ones that you were saying, and the stones were raining. Who? I mean, how idle can you be? We should be having a conversation of who, not what. Man, you go throw stones because you've been given money, 1,000, we saw in Kennel. You go die in Kennel, and you give your family a burden of mourning for you and funeral expenses. The question is who and why would you do that? Then that one needs to be addressed. And another thing, Anita has talked about dynasty and hustler narrative. And I would want to urge your people and your party not to weaponize things. Because things go and they get interpreted in a certain direction. People try to explain the wheelbarrownomics. They tell you the wheelbarrow story is all about the mtu wa chini and stuff. Sometimes we need to now look for ours. As the third way, look for your wheelbarrow. As ODM, look for your wheelbarrow. And as the president side, your wheelbarrow. And then now ideologies come to the table and we talk about ideologies. Weaponizing things that are being said by other people will finish this country.
Thank you, Kosgei.
I do have a right of reply.
Next week I'll give you that opportunity. Actually, we are overrunning. But I'm giving you a summary to say something, all of us. There's something here very important, Mheshimiwa, that we might not miss to talk about. As we began the year, Gladys Wanga, who is in the Committee of Budget, spoke of, we didn't have an otherwise. Saizi, as we pass through the road, you hear people talking of chapati merudi lenzi ya zamani. Things have gone that expensive. Jobs have been lost. Income are not there. But at the same time, the corporate tax have been brought back and the VAT. In summary, Mheshimiwa, in summary, Anita, and in summary, Kosgei, what do we do about the state of the economy? We continue
one of the reasons why, let me see one, don't confuse the 35%, 15%, and the fact that according to the DP, that is 100 billion shillings that has not been paid. We have not been able to send 100 billion shillings. If that is true, I'm not sure it is, to the counties. Not because it is 15%, but because we may not have corrected in terms of revenue. So it's not 35%. And I want to tell you that if 35% is going to come to Nyandarua, I will do it. I will move day and night to ensure that 35% comes to Nyandarua by passing the BBI. We lost this issue of securing our revenue base. Our revenue base is Nairobi. And because of this pressure that was put in the whole process, and it's still being pushed, including the narrative that I've heard from the DP. I don't like going head on my readers. But the fact what the statement he issued was not correct. It was inaccurate. It was not an honest statement. Even when we are at 35 billion, two things I want to say here. We failed to secure through this BBI because we have it here. I carry it because, and I read it. You can see Kosgei.
You have a copy. You have a copy, Mheshimiwa.
Kwa sababu hata iko kwa simu yako. Time. Now what I'm saying is this. The first draft of BBI, Anita, you need to tell your age mate, had Nairobi in it as securing the special aspects as a metropolis. So that as a country, we secure the base. Correct more from where we are making money. And ensure that we can be able to reduce this heavy burden that is going to the Kenyans. Because of the noise that was made, Nairobi was removed. It is back to where we are losing money. We have to plug these holes somehow. Finally, on this issue of whatever. By the way, the other thing that you guys need to deal with, and Third Way Alliance, fund KBC through parliament, so that you have a neutral person in the form of a broadcasting corporation. Avoid the ones that belong to individuals. If KBC reports in a biased manner, they are required to do it in the constitution, can take them to court. But I wanted to say this, that the other crucial thing that is important, the issue of, we have borrowed beyond what we can pay, any child being born in this country will be given this amount of money. I had it when I was younger than them. So don't get worried. These things we have heard them all over. It's only that you are hearing them for the first time. There is nothing to get worried about. We had difficult times. We didn't correct revenue. Because of this COVID, the economy was also not moving up by that time. So we have less income. And certainly we'll come out of this. But it is not, even if you, Koske, sikiza hii ndio ujue mzuri.
He is talking to me.
Now to you, because I can see potential in you.
Thank you, sir.
At Treasury today,
yes,
donors are queuing to give us money.
Are they?
We only need to say this and we get a funder. Wow. Why? This is the country that has never defaulted on its own since 1963. Stop listening to the naysayers.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
This economy is capable of holding us, and I can tell you, if we are now borrowing, just allow me to say this for Daragwa, please. If we are borrowing so that the tamaking that has started in Daragwa, which started 2 weeks ago, or the tamaking that has started from Kenot to Marua, if we are borrowing to fund those ones, let us borrow more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. And I'd like to say, you should not be in a position to abuse goodwill just because you've enjoyed goodwill, or what I'd like to say, social capital. Yani umeaminika ya kwamba unaweza fanya vitu. I believe that Kenya's public debt is a serious issue. And today, because tuko na mheshimiwa kwa panel, I'd love to urge him, please do not raise the budget ceiling again. Where we sit, and when you look at the Institute of Economic Affairs, when you look at reports by the likes of Kwame Owino, and they talk about these things, let's not burden the generation that is to come. And our problem is coming strictly. If we were borrowing for good things, we would have no problem. But the challenge we are having is the gaps that we are having. For example, being told bluntly that 2 billion is being lost annually. And not just words by the president, but even if when you go to the Auditor General report, Office of the Auditor General, you see it through, not just through national government, but through county government. I do not agree, I do not disagree that we are in a very good standing. And I know even the Paris debt, they were telling us we can give you more money, but under certain conditions. And even Google today has given us 1.2 billion. I do not disagree. But I say do not. But I do say when it comes to public debt, I say let's use the money properly. And when it comes to corruptions, let's deal with the bull by the horns.
Cause gain a few seconds.
A few seconds. They have taken my seconds. Now, mine, I just have a solution. We have borrowed a lot of money, close to 9 trillion since you took office. And to build roads. We are not refusing. The roads are just amazing. But I wish we would have started from industries, that we would generate revenue for our country out of import. We would not be here.
Many thanks. That is Anita Nkiroche, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, and Mr. Edgar Kosgei. As composed as they are, they have taken us through the topics tonight: the state of the nation, looking into the political intolerance, the status of the Kenyan economy, and the way forward. They have taken their time, and you've also taken your time to contribute on Power Brief tonight. This is just the beginning, because it is the first episode, because from next week moving forward, this place will be full of information, because remember always, information is power on matters politics, policy, economy, and governance. We appreciate your overwhelming responses on our social media platforms and your feedback, which keeps us going. For me, Cornelius Omuse, I wish you a very good night.